Welcome back to a Slice of Empathy podcast. In today's episode, we are speaking with Shari Bookstaff, who is a marine biology professor, author, and brain tumor survivor. She is also the owner of Impact of Empathy, which offers workshops and activities and tangible tips on expressing empathy in a variety of situations. Thank you so much for joining. If you can start off with telling us a little bit about yourself and how you formed Impact of Empathy.
Okay, my name is Shari Bookstaff, and I've been a biology professor at a community college near San Francisco since 1990, so for a long time. And then I was going about my life being a biology professor, and in April of 2006, I started getting dizzy and nauseous, just out of the blue, and I started getting sick. And I later found out that I had a brain tumor. And I got the brain tumor taken out in July of 2006. And it was supposed to be I won't use the word routine, but they use the word routine surgery to take this tumor out. And I was supposed to have no lasting effects and, be in the hospital 5 to 10 days. And that turned into almost 9 months. And the rest of my life been having lasting effects. So what I realized during that time was that the level of empathetic care that I received from my healthcare providers varied drastically. Some were really kind and considerate and compassionate, and some were not. So when I come out the other side, I really realized that I had this ability to talk to people. I wasn't afraid to talk to groups. So I started talking to groups, students, and other healthcare professionals on sharing my story and telling them, giving them practical tips on how to connect with their patients immediately by expressing empathy.
Yeah, I really appreciate you taking the time to share your story. That is so profound. And I'd like to know a little bit more about how maybe you reshaped your life and kind of how that kind of maybe led into writing your book. I know you have a few amazing books out there. And then also your career as a marine biology professor.
Thank you. Well, I grew up in Wisconsin. I mean, not to go too far back, but in Wisconsin, there aren't really a whole lot of whales around. And I loved, whales and dolphins. So I came out to California for graduate school. And I was also seasick. So I couldn't go work on a boat. So I got into teaching. I won't say that I fell into it, but I loved it. So I started teaching it at this community college, but I was the kind of professor that would take my students on, field trips, and we would go down pretty rocky cliffs to get whale bones. And, I was pretty active with my students, and we went on a lot of field trips. And then when this happened, that part of my life really, I won't say is over, but I can't do hikes anymore. I can't really do hikes. But I do go whale watching. The one thing that I can do, one of my mottos is to focus on what you can change about yourself, what you can do. And, I can go on a boat. So I go whale watching, and I go on other, boat adventures. Those are kind of my adventurous things. So, that's one way that my life has really changed. I try to, another mantra that I have is modify your goals, but stay true to yourself. So I tried that, staying true to myself. What I'd like to do on weekends is get outside and do something, near the beach. And there are certain things I can't do. I mean, even walking on sand is hard without assistance right now. But I can walk on, the cement, the sidewalk next to the beach. And there are other things that I can do. And I've been going out and seeing whales a lot during weekends, during the summer when they're here in Pacifica. So I still manage to incorporate what I love into my life, even though there are certain things that I can't do.
Absolutely love that. And I love your resilience and approach to especially getting back outdoors and focusing, as you said, on what you can do. I think being outside, I know for me personally, no matter what I might be dealing with, has had a monumental impact on my mental health and of course physical health as well. Yeah. And I'm a beach lover as well. I love being by the beach. And I think that's one of the things that's hard about being a couple hours away in Sacramento is the
Right.
proximity to the beach is a little far. So,
It's
um,
a little far.
yeah, and
But
I definitely hear what you're saying. So I think, like, I know for me, eventually the idea is to hopefully move closer to the beach because it's such a beautiful place.
yeah. And there are times when, I'm feeling a little down. And so what I'll have to do is go. I mean, we've been having amazing sunsets around here. So I'll go watch the sunset over the ocean. And even on a foggy day or cloudy day, just something about watching the ocean and the waves in the ocean and kind of that wonder of what's underneath. It's really inspiring. And it's a
Oh, I
way
love
to
that.
reset yourself, reset your mood, and,
Exactly.
give back. But the impact of empathy business is really all about what I can do to make an impact on the healthcare community. And and the reason I'm so determined to make this work is that it's a way of making my life more than what it is. It's not just about me. It's a way of taking I mean, it was a tragedy what happened to me, and it really did, affect my life in such a profound way. But it's taking that really negative experience and using it to propel that money and using it to motivate myself to really give back to the medical community and make sure that everybody knows how important it is to express empathy to their patients.
Absolutely. I absolutely love that. Would you be able to tell us about the role that positivity and determination has sort of played in your healing process and continuing your dreams despite the obstacles that you faced?
Yeah, I mean, one thing that you always hear from like motivational speakers or anybody is that you have to be more positive, or
Yeah.
you have to lead with positivity and be more positive. But nobody really tells you how. So, what I do is in some of my talk, I give the how, not just the do it, but how. How do you get positive when everything around you is so, you know, for lack of a better word, crappy, or so lemony, as like say, when life is giving you a lot of lemons. How do you stay positive? Well, first of all, I don't think you stay positive all the time. I think that it's okay and important to recognize your negative feelings too and accept that it's okay to be sad about what's going on. But eventually you have to kind of let that sadness, not let it go away, but let happy things into your life and into your heart, despite all the sad things. And that's actually where my book comes in. The title of my book is When Life Throws You Lemons, Make Cranberry Juice. And the point of that other mantra that I live by is that you can't turn lemons into lemonade. So I'm not about repurposing your lemons or saying, oh, it's really not that bad, or that bad thing could really be a good thing. I'm not about twisting. But what it's about is that when you have those lemons, it's still okay to look for and accept any kind of positive entity into your life and into your heart. And I call those positive entities friends. So you have the lemons, which are the really could be really bad things. It could be just minor irritating things in your life, but you can. And I'm saying you can put those aside for a little while. I promise you, they'll still be there when you come back and go and accept something positive and do something positive. And remember that cranberries could be as little as you turn on the radio and your favorite song is playing, or an amazing sunset at the beach, or they could be so small. But allowing yourself to experience that happiness, even briefly, will help you reset your mind. And you can go back and deal with your lemons, because your lemons are not going to go away. And I'm not going to tell you they're not that bad, but I am going to say that you can deal with them better if you're in a different mental place and if you allow yourself to be happy for a minute.
Oh, absolutely. And I love that title actually because the way it suggests that when you get lemons, you can pivot and do something entirely different. I absolutely love that. That is so creative, and I really love that title.
Thank you.
Uh, and I actually, you mentioned that like a lot of motivational speakers, they'll say be more positive, but not how. And you're so right. I hear a lot of, be positive. And throughout my life, I've heard people say that, but you're right.
Right.
There isn't
And
really
nobody
much
says how. Yeah.
exactly. And so it's kind of more empowering to kind of know, like, okay, how can I be more positive? Here are some of the steps that I can take rather than just, okay, just be more positive. And it's like,
Right. Just smile more. Yeah.
right.
Yeah. Like it doesn't just work like that. But I've got 4 mantras plus the one life to do lemons make cranberry juice. But the 4 mantras focus on what you can change,
Yeah.
which you've heard before, but really, look at that phrase and tell yourself that to focus on that tell yourself there's always something you can change. And that's the thing. You think, I'm in this deep dark hole. There's nothing I can do to get out of it. Well, there's always something that you can change. I mean, for me, when I was being told, nerves don't grow back, then you're not going to get better after a year. Well, maybe nerves don't grow back, but I knew that the muscles around those nerves could get stronger. And actually nerves grow new neural pathways. They kind of take different passages when a nerve is dead. So there are things you can change, even in that situation where, it's hopeless because your nerves are dead. There's something you can change.
Yeah. And I
And
love that
then
you
thank you. And then I'm trying to think of the acronym is get charged. CHARGD. So the CHA was for focus on what you can change. R is for resources. So do the best you can with the resources that you have. And also know that you have resources. And you may have limited resources too. You may be limited financially or physically or socially, but there's always going to be something that you have. Every human has some kind of resource. And if you do the best you can with those resources, you're going to be more productive. You're going to feel more productive and everything else is going to start to fall into place. And then the G is for modify your goals, but stay true to yourself. Again, motivational speakers, they never give up on your goals. They'll come through eventually with hard enough work. And I say, okay, yes, you never want to give up on your goals, but sometimes you need to modify them.
Yeah.
When I went back to teaching after my brain tumor, I couldn't teach in the same way that I taught before, but I could teach online. But I still taught my animals class and my marine biology class. So I stayed true to myself, but modified the way that I went back to teaching. So modifying your goal. And then don't be afraid to try something new and difficult is the D in charge. Trying new and difficult things is how your neural pathways grow and how you get new neural pathways and how you always are relearning things and educating yourself and educating your body to really do what you want your body to do. So those 4 mantras and accepting those cranberries, really got me through some of the darkest times of my life. And even still, this was 18 years ago, and I still have to tell myself those every day. Because there are times when you're just so, you get in a bad mood, you get depressed, and just to pull yourself out of it, to pull myself out of it, I would tell myself those 4 mantras, and then go watch the sunset, and know that I'm going to feel better later.
True. I love that you mentioned that. And I think that is something that anyone can be able to put into practice with those steps. And that is just amazing. And I know that sometimes I even get stuck and have to focus on, okay, there are some things that aren't in my control, but what is in my control? And
Right.
it makes things that much better. You also mentioned that football played a surprising role in your recovery.
Yes,
How
it
did
certainly did.
how did this contribute to your journey of resilience and empowerment?
It's in a few ways, but one way is that I've always been a football fan. And when I moved up to California, I became a 49er fan. Well, one thing about football, and one day I remember very clearly, I was like really upset and just ready to give up. I'm like, and my thought process was, I just want to throw in the towel and give up. And then my thought went to even football players. take a knee sometimes at the end of the game. So, and they take a knee and kind of end it. So why can't I do that too? And then I thought, wait, they only take a knee when they're winning. The losing team never takes a knee. They always throw that ball until the clock runs out, even if there's no possibility they're going to win because they're getting ready for the next game. So the losing, when you're losing, you never take a knee. And that spirit of determination of always keeping on trying, no matter what the situation, that is what, in that moment, I remember that's what got me to go on to the next moment and say, okay, I can't take a knee yet because I'm not winning. So that's, that got me going to the next moment. Throwing in the towel, I guess, I think that's a boxing reference. And it's not a sport that I follow. So I'm like, I can't do that. You have to go with the take a knee thing. And that you can't do.
Your company, Impact of Empathy, focuses on workshops and activities related to expressing empathy in various situations. What would you say that are some key insights or tips that you've learned about empathy through your work and personal experiences?
Definitely making that, when you're a healthcare provider, making that instant connection to your patient. And by instant, I do understand that most healthcare providers don't have a whole lot of time with their patients. And one myth I will dispel right away is that expressing empathy doesn't take more time. It actually is going to make your work more efficient and take less time. Because who would you rather, stick a needle into? Somebody who's pulling their arm away or somebody who's giving you their arm willingly? What's going to take less time? And I've had a lifelong fear of doctors and needles, but that nurse that connected to me, that I let take blood from me, had a much easier time to making that instant connection. And again, you're going to go with how. How do I make that instant connection? And think about if you walk into a patient's room, you can even, your listeners right now can even think about your own room. If somebody walked into your house, what's on your walls that they might be able to comment on that's anything other than being a patient? So think about anything, any clues as to their life or their personality when you walk into a patient's room that gives you something to talk about with them that is not medical. So making any kind of non-medical connection immediately is going to make them relax right away, and then you go from there. And then you can start the medical stuff. But it really will be easier to have your patient cooperate with you if you make that connection, that instant connection.
That's so true. And I love that you shed some light on that, because funny story, I at one point was thinking about studying nursing. And
Oh, wow. Yeah.
yeah, and over time I kind of realized just that, like, there are just so many, of course, like scientific requirements of a position like that, but also there is a lot of things you have to do in that field. There's a lot of like physical and mental workload that kind of comes with that. And as you mentioned, it's so important to be able to connect with your patients. And I think that's what really kind of differentiates someone who I don't want to say like a good or bad nurse or medical professional. Don't necessarily want to say that, but just, I think that makes all the difference. And I think for anyone to be successful in that role needs to be able to do that and kind of have those connections and have that extra empathy,
And that's something to practice. Yeah.
Exactly. And so, like, for me, I ended up deciding ultimately what the field wasn't for me. I'm in marketing now,
Okay.
but yeah. And so I can totally understand, like, it is definitely not like that role, not for the faint of heart. And so,
Right.
yeah, I appreciate what you're saying, because it's definitely a must.
One other thing I'll definitely say about that is that not only will expressing empathy and making that connection be better for the patient, but it will be better for the medical professional. And it'll be less stressful if your patients are cooperating. So I'm looking at, my workshop attendees having a long and, prolific career, having a long career without too much stress. I mean, it's very stressful being in the medical field, but I think it's definitely less stressful if you if your patients are cooperating with you. So that's what it's all about. It's all about getting your patients to cooperate with you, make your life better.
Oh, that is so true. How do you integrate your story of overcoming the adversity that you faced into your workshops based on empathy? And what's maybe the impact that you hope to have on individuals through this process?
Well, I do share some stories of some of my best medical care and some of mine, well, not the best medical care. So I share those stories and how it could have gone differently, maybe, and what the medical professional didn't do to connect with me immediately. But I also give them tips on like empathetic listening. And some of the tips that I give them, they say, they use in everyday life, not just with patients, but it's better communication with everybody when you can listen empathetically. You become a really good listener and you can be a really good friend, coworker, leader. I do workshops on leading with empathy, which are a lot of the same tips because you're trying to connect with your group and you need to connect with your group to have your group follow your lead a little bit more. You want to gain cooperation. So I do share my story and, just some of the best and kind of the best and worst. Do this, not that kind of thing with my students or attendees.
Is there any in your workshops, are there any specific success stories that maybe you'd like to share with us?
One story that I always like to share is one of my speech therapists would come in to work on speech with me because I couldn't even swallow for 6 months. So we worked on swallowing. Speech therapists also work on swallowing, but she worked on speech with me too. So instead of having me read random words on a card, what she did is she came in and she noticed that I had this poster of whales on my wall. So she would make me recite the names of the whales instead of reading words off card. So she'd point to a whale, I'd say gray whale, point to another one, humpback whale, another one, blue whale. And then she would point again and make me say the scientific names of the whales. And this is back when I could barely speak. So it wasn't very intelligible. And she had no idea if I was saying them right. But I knew that I was, at least trying to say them right. And what that did is it worked all of the speech muscles. I mean, saying Megaptra no Viengli, that works all of your muscles in your mouth. But it also made me realize that I still remembered the names of those whales. I still remembered the scientific names of those whales. So even though it was more than just speech therapy, that kind of therapy gave me hope that I would one day be back to being a marine biologist. So really that's one of my best, stories of how a therapist really used my passion to motivate me and do the best that I can do.
Is there any advice that you would maybe give to any others who might be facing similar challenges or setbacks based on your own journey?
Definitely. First of all, if anybody has an acoustic neuroma, which is the kind of brain tumor that I had, most of the time it is taken out without any kind of effect. So I would say do not read my book before you have that operation, because chances are everything's going to be fine. But any other trauma, I mean, one of the most important things I think, and the most difficult things, is that when you're in trouble, you need to be able to accept help from others. And asking for help is still hard. It's still hard for me to ask for help. And you want to be independent and you want to be able to do things by yourself. You need to be able to accept help from others. Well, people will offer to help. And when people offer to help, my advice to you is to take it. And I'm telling you that they're not offering. Of course, they're offering because they want to help you. But helping you is going to help them. They can't cure your brain tumor. They can't make you feel better physically, but they can go to the grocery store for you. They can take you to the grocery store. There are things that they can do, and people want to help. So when somebody offers to help, accept it and think of something that you'd want them to do, because that's, they are asking because they do want to be of use to you. And there's so much that they can't do for you, but there are things that they can do for you. So think about those things and accept that help.
And I think honestly, a lot of our listeners might be wondering how they can maybe help someone that is in a similar position because honestly, it really is like hard for so many people to ask for help. So I want to encourage
Right.
anyone who's going through something similar to,
Accept the help.
exactly,
Nope.
to either ask for help or being, being able to offer help. And
One thing I would say about offering help is offer something specific that they can't, that you know they need, that they can't really say no to. If you just say, call me if you need anything, they're never going to call you. But if you
yeah,
say, hey, I'm on my way to the grocery store. Can I pick something up for you or do you want to go along? That's something specific. So think of something specifically you can offer that you're willing to do. Because remember, they might say yes. They don't offer to vacuum their house unless you really want to. 'Cause they might say sure. So to offer something that you're ready to do, but something that makes it sound like it's not a huge imposition for you, and something that they won't say no to.
I love that you mentioned to be specific because, yeah, as you said, a lot of people you're like, oh yeah, no, I don't need anything, I'm good. But yeah, if you be
Right.
specific, then I think it's a lot more helpful.
Right. And I have a lot of people who I never talk to, who never like call me just to check up on me. But I'd run into them and they'd say, "Oh, call me if you need anything." And I'm like, I'm not going to call somebody who I never
Yeah.
connect with. You have, if you want to help, that's great and they need it, but you're going to have to convince them that they need it and that's okay for them to accept it.
Yeah, as you're mentioning, like sometimes it's a lot of folks feel like kind of obligatory basically be like, call me if you need anything, and then
Right, right,
you know, so it's like just yeah, so I think it's important to be like more, yeah, for sure, like more proactive about it and
right. And
specific. Yeah. How has your perspective on life and empathy really evolved since experiencing life-changing events? And is there anything that maybe you'd like to offer for our audience, anyone who's listening who might be going through something similar?
think about that one. I mean, I try to use the empathy in my teaching, but I still teach to students. So when they ask me like questions, I'll know that even if it's Friday night and they have a really serious question about something that was due that day, they don't want to wait for the answer until Monday. So if it's something that I can do right away, I'll tell them, I got this. We'll take care of it Monday. Don't worry about it. And I'll even answer just that little answer. So I'm trying to be more empathetic to others, but also, recognizing when you are short and tempered on something to apologize right away. There's been times when somebody has come up to me to say something and I've been kind of short with them. And it's like, that's not empathetic. But, if you recognize that right away and you apologize for it right away, that's pretty much all that you can do. So things like that. Also things like, well, karma is a big one. I don't believe in karma anymore because the way that we use karma is such a give and take. You do something good and the universe will reward you. And karma isn't really meant to be like that. And karma's not like that because bad things happen to good people all the time. So karma is something that what I say is think of karma as something you give, not something you get back. So it's okay to give good karma, not thinking, oh, I'm doing good things, so good things will happen to me. Because I do feel like the way that we use the word karma, we're negating that bad things happen to good people. And that's the other thing that you can tell your friend who might be going through a tough time. Because one thing, anybody who's going through a really drastic tragedy, they're wondering what they did to deserve it. What kind of karma they're getting back. So maybe reassuring people all the time that bad things happen to good people. And that might take away some of the self pity. I know that it's okay to feel bad and to be sad and to feel sorry for yourself. You got to snap out of it at some point. And I think part of snapping out of it is realizing that you didn't do anything to deserve this. Bad things happen to good people, and there is no explanation for it. But there's things that we can do to pull ourselves out of that dark place.
Yeah, that's
So I
beautifully
think,
said. I honestly think that whenever anything difficult, I had a cancer scare back about 6 years ago, and I remember going through this process, thinking like, and I think many people, it's like, why me? Like, what did I do? As you said,
right,
it's just like
why
sometimes
me now?
things happen, you know?
Right.
Yeah,
And I've
I think that's
definitely gone through that why me stage. And it's like, that's an unanswerable question. So I'll think of different questions, just funny questions. And I think using humor too to get through any of these situations is going to help you. Just to find something to laugh about. When I was telling my brother after I had a pretty bad fall, I was telling him that I'm, just like Simone Biles. If she loses concentration, she'll fall. Like, I mean, of course, she's falling off a balance beam, but whatever. If I lose concentration, just walking up a step, I might fall. So me and Simone Biles have a lot in common. And that's, just being kind of silly like that is one way to get yourself to feel better too.
honestly, I know for me, like it's even just focusing on some small things that bring me joy have like really helped like during those moments where I feel
Definitely.
angry, like, like as we were saying, like what did we do? Or, you know,
Right.
couldn't have said it better. Like it's very
Definitely. And remember that it's okay to have a moment of happiness in the
yeah.
midst of tragedy. And that's, people don't think they should be smiling if something bad is happening, but it's okay to take a moment and be happy. And then you
Yeah.
go back to your lemon and deal with it.
Yeah. And I love that you say that because I think like there is a lot of, I think they call it like toxic positivity that kind of go around because I feel like it's always like, yeah, be positive. But I think it's like, it's okay to have the feelings, but also not to sit and dwell on them.
Right.
And
Right.
I think there's definitely a balance, like allow yourself to have those feelings and then also allow them to continue on, not allow them to stay there. And so I think it's so important.
Right. So don't expect you to make lemonade out of your lemon. You
Yeah,
can add some
exactly.
cranberry. You can add some cranberry juice to your lemonade.
100%.
Your lemon that'll make it taste really good. So there's ways to, and the cranberries might have nothing. Well, probably have nothing to do with the lemon. They're totally separate. But it's just a way of. I like it. I like saying you're changing your internal scenery. So internal scenery is going to be modified, and that's going to change your mood, and that's going to help you do with your lemon.
Yeah. I'm not gonna lie, I'm thinking about making some cranberry lemonade now because that actually sounds
It's
pretty
really
good.
good. It is really good. Like that tart and that sweet thing together, it's really yummy.
Oh yeah. Well, awesome. Before we close out, would you be able to share with our audience where they can find you and connect with you and buy your books?
Yeah, actually, I have two companies, a nonprofit called Lifetime of Impact, which is at lifetimeofimpact.com. If you know of anybody who's a teacher of any kind of allied health student, I offer free presentations to student groups and to student classes. I go into classes and do this workshop. And then Impact of Empathy, which is at impactofempathy.net. That is where I would like to go into professional organizations and to hospitals and give presentations to healthcare professionals or other professionals. Everybody can use empathy. So I do have leading with empathy workshop, which I think are really important as well. My book, One Life 30 Lemons Make Cranberry Juice, is on Amazon. And I'd love to have, and it's also linked to from impactofempathy.net, but I'd love to have you go to Amazon or go to my impactofempathy.net and take a look at my book. That'd be great.
Absolutely. I know I'll definitely be checking it out after this episode. That's
Great.
yeah, I'll definitely get that purchase. Excited to learn more. I love the title, and I'll be sure to get all of that linked down in our show notes as well. So thank you for such a beautiful conversation.
Sure. Thank you.
I really appreciate you sharing your story of adversity with us, and I think it can really help so many different people who are going through something similar. So I really appreciate you sharing that with us.
Great. Thank you so much for having me.